The blue flower.
Charles Polcyn has been keeping bees for 30 years. But a recent trend has him worried: a sharp decline in the number of honeybees across the world. North America has not been spared.
There is a dwindling bee population across all of North America, but a bit of it is due to nutrition available, that monoculture means only one type of plant is grown, but that doesn't provide a mixed nutrition for the bees. Beekeepers are beginning to realize that we can't make a living keeping bees anymore.
This year's figures for Manitoba has been alarming. The province has topped the list in Canada with 46% winter loss.
We had been in a trend where our normal winter loss is probably in a range between 20 and 25% on a regular basis, probably closer to the last 10 years. And but a 46% loss is one that is really, really hard to make up.
The picture has been grim worldwide. Since 2006, the annual losses have varied between 23 and 40% in Europe and North America. And that's not good news for you and me. You might just have to shell out an extra buck for that bottle of honey.
The price of honey is going to go up higher because of the shortage of honey being produced. And I've had to raise prices as well in order to make up for the losses that I had in terms of bees. 3 months ago, this was $8. Now it's $10.
It's not just honey production that's threatened. Less bees means less pollinators. And that can impact several crops: almonds, peaches, soybeans, apples, pears, cherries, raspberries, blackberries, cranberries. The list is long. However, Manitoba might have escaped the worst.
Generally, the cropping systems that we have in Manitoba, their requirement for honeybee pollination isn't as pronounced as crops that are grown in BC and Ontario, like the horticultural crops like cherries or cranberries or apples. You know, a lot of our crops are the oilseed crops like canola that can actually pollinate themselves, and soybean and other crops like that. And certainly the cereal crops that we grow a lot of don't require honeybee pollination.
Loss of food and nutrition might not be the only factors behind the high loss of hives.
Climate is warming up. I mean, the Arctic, we've had storms and rain that we've never had before.
We had a very early spring. The bees got started really early, and when we got into the summer period, all the crops were quite advanced, and then we went through a drought period which ended the bloom really early. And the bees went through the latter part of the summer, early part of fall with limited resources. So they were entering into the wintering period with lower than normal resources.
Beekeepers feel nature alone is not to be blamed for the losses. Fingers are being pointed at changes in agricultural practices and commercial interests of giant corporations.
There's a lot of pesticides used now that were never around before, and they are systemic pesticides. They don't disappear. They're around for 3, 4, 5, or 6 years, and they run through the plant and in the root system. And because of that, bees get a small amount of poison in their system.
We have more pests to deal with, and we find that we have to rely on chemical treatments to keep these pests under control. And it seems like with that extra stress of these general pesticides in the environment, it is putting a stress on the bees.
The notion finds support in a report released by Canada's Pest Management Regulatory Agency. In 2012, 70% bee deaths in Quebec and Ontario were attributed to neonicotinoids. The European Union has approved a 2-year ban on their use. Charles Polcyn advocates similar measures for this region.
Say, well, maybe you should follow the example of France and Germany and in Italy in terms of some pesticides are no longer available to be used, but they're being sold in North America.
Pest Management Regulatory Agency, which is an agency under Health Canada, is looking at ways of trying to minimize the impact of certain chemicals. Currently, the plan is in a proposal phase, and it looks like if it goes ahead, those changes would likely occur in 2014.
Manitoba Agricultural Services Corporation has rolled out the Overwinter Bee Mortality Insurance Program to help beekeepers in the event of an abnormal winter loss. Amidst all the concerns, Manitoba bee farmers had a small consolation last season.
This year, the honey production on a per colony basis was above average, or appears to be above average. We're in the process of trying to gather the statistics on this, but in discussions with beekeepers, it was surprising how well the bees did